Studio, we welcome now Henry Barbour. He's a GOP strategist and a Mississippi delegate to the RNC Convention. Hey, Henry, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Gerard. How are you today?
Doing great. So we had, let's start first with the elections, runoff elections yesterday across the state of Mississippi. Had a couple of key state Senate races. Any surprises for you there, Henry?
No, I think the race for John Horn's seat in North Jackson into Madison County and Canton, I thought was really interesting. It got heated between Kamisha Mumford and Letitia Johnson. And there was serious money spent in this race. Letitia Johnson spent something like $350,000, which is a lot for a state Senate race. And Kamisha Mumford spent $160,000, which is a considerable amount as well. But Mumford won 56% to 44%. But it was interesting to me, in a runoff election, turnout is almost always going to be lower. And so, sort of strange things can happen. And Hinds County voters did a better job of turning out. They turned out at a rate of 74% of how they had voted on November 4. But in Madison County, only about 55% turned out, which is Mumford's hometown. She's a judge and attorney in Canton. But nevertheless, she still won because she carried Hinds County, which has got, the larger number of voters in this race. But interestingly, Kamisha was supported by Mike Espy, former congressman, former member of Bill Clinton's cabinet, attorney, the mayor of Ridgeland, the mayor of Clinton, while Letitia Johnson was supported by Benny Thompson. And so it's interesting that Benny didn't win in this race. And I should note, interestingly, Derek Johnson is Letitia's husband, and I'm sure you know Derek. He is the head of the NAACP. He was the head of the NAACP in Mississippi, and then I think in about 2017, he was for the whole country. And so you had some real power brokers involved in this race, and they spent between them about $500,000 fighting over who could go to the state Senate. I don't know.
And so, Henry, was that just for the runoff, or was that total?
That's total. That's total.
Still a lot, though, for a state Senate seat.
It is. It's a chunk of change, for sure. And so congratulations to Kamisha Mumford. I hope she does a great job at the Capitol. And I'm sure Letitia Johnson will be busy as an attorney in Jackson. We had two, talented candidates running for this. And then and up in Greenwood, we also had a race for David Jordan's seat. He retired. Mm-hmm. And that's LaFleur, Panola, and Tallahatchie County. And Justin Pope defeated Carisha Brown 54% to 46%. And then I guess I'll mention that the acting coroner in Hinds County, Jeremiah Howard, won with a strong 58% in his runoff. And as far as I know, those were sort of the races in Mississippi that were of note. So it's interesting to try to see what campaigns do to generate turnout in the Jackson Senate race. Letitia Johnson kind of went after the issue of school choice and the fact that Mumford's children go to a private school, and sort of question her ability to be for public schools. And, it's fair enough. All's fair in a campaign, but apparently it did not work.
Right.
Mumford, pretty strong performance.
Henry, do you expect any major difference in philosophy in governing, serving as a member of the state Senate between Commissioner Mumford and former Senator John Horn?
I don't think so. I will say I don't know Commissioner Mumford or Letitia Johnson. I think I've met Letitia before with Derek, but I just feel like you had two candidates, both very capable, and neither afraid to kind of go to the mat and compete, which I admire. They both are Democrats, and I'm a Republican. But, I don't think there'll be a whole lot of difference. But we shall see how Mumford does. I know, a lot of important things happen at the state legislature. I think people put a lot more emphasis on the federal Congress, the U.S. Congress and Senate. But, Gerard, it's so hard to get things passed in D.C. that a lot of public policy really is happening at the state level, all across the country. And so it's really important who we send to the state capitol. And we've got some good leadership in the Senate and the House. And it's really critical, the folks that we send to Jackson to represent us, and obviously the governor as well.
Henry, let's talk about this special election in Tennessee. The whole nation was focused on that. Matthew Van Epps and Afton Bain competing for that one, Republican versus a Democrat, respectively. I noted earlier on the program, Henry, that the margin there was 9 points or so, but that's a district that was won by the president and the prior office holder for that seat by 20 points, respectively.
22.
Are you concerned about they roughly halved it, more than halved it. So are you concerned about that for the midterms?
Yes, 100%. As a Republican, I think if, that race clearly is of concern. And let me just tell you, Afton Bain is a left winger. She calls herself a radical.
Right.
And so for Republican candidate who seemed to be a capable guy, to only win that race by 9 points in a race that we won by 22 in the presidential race, should alarm Republicans. It should alarm the president's political team. A lot of money was spent there. They had big turnout. The turnout matched 2022, which is really impressive. That the speaker was there on Monday to help generate turnout, and understandably, because the Democrats only need to flip 3 seats in the U.S. Congress in the House to take the speakership away and to totally change the second term or the second 2 years of President Trump's 4-year term. The dynamics will change dramatically if we lose the House. They'll set the agenda there. But Trump weighed in and they got the job done. So they accomplished that. But as a precursor to the midterms, it doesn't look good. And I think if you look at the races for governor in Virginia and New Jersey that we just finished, and there were a lot of Republicans talking about, we got a real chance, particularly in New Jersey. We weren't close in Virginia or New Jersey. And then meanwhile, a socialist Democrat gets elected, Mamdani, in New York City. And then on top of that, Prop 50 out in California dealing with redistricting passed overwhelmingly. All of that is an indication that we're in historical norms, because typically in a midterm with I'll say a first-term president. This is not exactly a first-term president, but it's a rough year for whoever holds the White House. And so 2026 is looking like it could be trouble for Republicans. And I got some ideas on why, I think, but part of it is just historic.
We got a break. If you can hang on, we can keep talking on the other side. You good?
Yes, sir. All day.
All right. Great. We got Henry Barbour, GOP studio. We've got Henry Barbour, GOP strategist, on the line. So, Henry, before we went to break there, you said you had some ideas you thought. Let me back up. You said you thought that the election in Tennessee was a bit of a harbinger for what could be a tough midterms for Republicans. I agree with you, by the way. I just think that cutting that margin in a short year by more than half indicates that maybe there's a problem brewing. And then the other elections you mentioned in Virginia and New Jersey that didn't go well for Republicans there. But you said something before we went to break. You offered that perhaps you have some ideas of, and I know this is what you do, you're a strategist. Anything you want to share, Henry, about how maybe Republicans can shape their messaging going into the midterm year?
Yeah. Well, I don't think there are too many people that would disagree that politics, whether on the right or the left, has become something of performance art. It's a lot more about social media, getting on television, the soundbite. The more divisive, the better. It's not focused on public policy and getting results. And look, I spent most of my career being involved in running campaigns. And campaigns aren't about public policy. They're about winning. That's the only thing they're about. But when you get elected, you got a different job. And whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat, you need to be focused on how do we get the best results for the people, whether you're at the state capitol, whether you're at the White House or in Congress, wherever you are. And so I mentioned that, and I think that that's an issue for both parties, and I'd be a liar if I didn't admit that I think President Trump is kind of the leader in the clubhouse as far as being able to perform, and look, there are things that I give him great credit for that he has dealt with, the border and crime. I was pleased what he did with the Epstein files, and let's have transparency on that. Yeah, I think what he did with Israel and Gaza was very impressive. And I think he's been in a lot of ways very effective, but painfully sometimes just frustrating because he just can't seem to ever just let something go. And I think that one of the issues, Gerard, that everybody's kind of talked about is affordability, the cost of living. How do people make ends meet, and how's the economy going? And I think we being Republicans, we hammered President Biden on inflation. And it's part of the reason that we won the White House back in 24. But I don't know that we have done the best job of staying focused on that issue. And I just think it is a practical reality for voters. How are they able to make ends meet? And, the government shutdown on top of that, wasn't a winning issue for either side.
Right.
And, Chuck Schumer from New York thought the longer it went, boy, the Democrats were doing better and better with every day. And it's like, dude, you need to wake up. I mean, everybody's pissed. They're pissed at you. They're pissed at the president. They're pissed at Mike Johnson. They want the government to operate.
Sure.
And so I just think fundamentally, Gerard, we need to be focused on results. And, Haley likes to say policy is good politics. And I think when you're elected, yes, that's what you need to focus on. How do you get results? And I think we need to avoid the performance art. There are plenty of Tucker Carlsons out there who are not elected officials. And if he wants to be a performer, have at it. And he can have, whatever nutcase he wants on his show. I'm not going to watch. But for our elected officials, I want them to be, focused on results. And I think, I look to our governor, and I just think I'm proud of Tate for the economic development focus. He's focused on it like a laser beam, and it's paying off. And I think some of our other neighboring states are having some issues that are making them a little less attractive politically. And so I think that's a great opportunity for Mississippi. And I think Tate and I think the legislature have all done, and MDA done a good job of putting us in the best position. So when these companies are thinking about these billion-dollar projects, they're knocking on our door. They want to come see what's going on. And another plus here is, we don't sort of have all the not in my backyard as much as all these other states seem to have, Gerard.
I agree. So, Henry, one of the things we've been talking about the very subject all day, as a matter of fact, so perfect timing. One of the things that we discuss and get your take on this is it feels like that in the president's comments and even from Republican leadership, that maybe they're not acknowledging that things are really as they are, especially with respect to this affordability issue. That's something that touches everybody. You can't. I mean, we can get into some of the social issues, Henry, and it gets crazy, but that doesn't really directly affect. It's just people object to it. This is something that affects everybody.
100%. Yeah, and it's just it's unfortunate. I mean, hey, we called Biden on it, and Biden, was trying to spin that there was no inflation or that it was all great. When people are looking at their grocery bill, and it's like, this is crazy what they're paying for eggs, and now I think we got a little bit of the same disease, and politicians, elected officials need to understand. You got to talk about the good stuff and the hard things.
Sure.
And
yes,
sometimes you may not have all the answers, but people will give you credit if you're straight with them. And I think we need to be that way.
Agree.
As a party, and the voters will be a whole lot happier. Folks are more that way. But it does. I have to.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
I'm just going to say when
there was one quote I saw in the Wall Street Journal earlier today from the quote Kremlin spokesman, and you talk about spin, and he's saying we want peace, and it's just like talk about laughable. I mean they invaded Ukraine 3 years ago, and they're threatening Europe now. Sort of, hey, we got some nuclear weapons. We're sending some to Belarus, and just so they get a little bit closer to y'all. Anyway, I just thought that was quite a quote coming out of the Kremlin.
While the bombs are dropping, peace. Right? We want peace.
Exactly. Yeah, they just can't kill enough Ukrainians. And sadly, they're killing Russian soldiers just as fast.
That's exactly right. I recall, Henry, after Obama was elected the first time, 2008, took office, and remember one of the first actions was the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, I think is what it's called, if I'm not mistaken, the Recovery Plan, which today looks like petty cash at $900 billion. But You know, people expected and felt like we'd see immediate results from that. And I remember Joe Biden touring the country, screaming at people, the recovery's working, it's working. No, we don't feel that, Mr. Vice President. You have to be careful with that, do you not, Henry, in politics?
100%. You made me think back to a Bob Dole quote back in 1996, and he's taking on Bill Clinton, and he said something to the effect of, "I can't believe I'm losing to this guy." And
right.
Hey, give Dole credit. He said what he thought. Anyway, it's funny. But look, 26 is coming in a hurry, and Republicans better get focused on the things that the voters care about, and pocketbook is number one.
Always good to talk to you, Henry Barbour, GOP strategist and delegate to the RNC Convention. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for calling in.
All right, Gerard. Take care.
Take care, man. We're coming right back with the final segment on middays from the